This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. We're very pleased to be joined by retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, a Republican candidate for the U.S. House from Florida's 22nd Congressional District. District runs along the Atlantic coastline from northern Broward County to the northern end of Palm Beach County. The district is currently represented by Democrat Ron Klein. Colonel West has received many military awards, including the Bronze Star. In addition, he holds 2 master's degrees. Welcome again to Newsmax, Colonel.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Ashley.
You're being challenged in the Florida GOP primary by a home builder from Boca Raton by the name of David Brady. Why do you consider yourself a stronger Republican candidate than he is?
Well, I think one of the interesting things is that I've been a Republican since I retired down here and registered. Of course, David Brady, what we came to find out, he just registered as a Republican in March of this year. I think that when you look at the fact that I've been out and taken our message to all across South Florida, not just to Republicans, but to many different civic organizations, chambers of commerce, and we have a great amount of support. The fact that I'm sitting here with you obviously says that people are believing in the principal message that we're bringing to the people of South Florida and all across America. So I think that, for whatever reason, David Brady has shown up and to be maybe a minor obstacle in our way going forward to meet up against Ron Klein in the general election.
Assuming you are the Republican nominee, what will be the issues in the campaign against Ron Klein?
It's the economy and it's jobs. When you look at Ron Klein's record, in 2007 when he got to Congress, the unemployment rate was 4.7%. And as you know, since 2007, that unemployment rate has gone up to a high point of 9.8, 9.9. And that's the real reportable number. I mean, the actual on-the-ground number may be somewhere 15 to 16%. And then also it's the economy. Because as long as you have people to continue with the grossly misguided stimulus package and overspending policies that come out of Washington, D.C., which Ron Klein supports, he sits on the House Finance Committee, Ashley, and we just learned last week that a lot of the TARP funds ended up with foreign banks. So obviously he's not doing his job being a good steward of the resources of the American people.
All right, your rousing address last year about patriotism has gotten over 2 million hits on YouTube. What about that speech and the Tea Party movement do you believe should voters be paying particular attention to this season?
I think that speech, it was done at a place called At the Revolution, and it was all about talking about the founding principles that got us where we are today. And there was a gentleman that was dressed off camera, off stage, in a Revolutionary War garb with a musket, and he had a bayonet on, and that's what I was referring to, talking about that spirit of the Minuteman, that spirit of our founding fathers that we need to reestablish. And the Tea Party movement is nothing more than a conscience, a will of the American people to get back to those foundational principles of the Constitution, going back and reading Federalist Papers and things of that nature. So that's why I think it's very important to hear the voices of the American people.
What do you say to those people who suggest that the Tea Party movement is based in racism or partly thereof?
I've spoken to about 6, 7 different Tea Party events. As a matter of fact, I was invited to go up to a Pennsylvania Tea Party event here recently. I won't be able to go because my focus has to be on the district. So I think that all people are trying to do is to balkanize us. I think this is an attempt from the Democrat Party because they know that they have a tough time coming up in the November elections. They're trying to rouse up this sentiment, this chasm, this divide. They're being very divisive with this stirring up the pot on racism, and just the same as we see with this whole illegal immigration battle.
All right, you served more than 20 years in the U.S. Army and in several combat zones, including Operation Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and in Afghanistan. Now, you recently released a video describing aspects of your military career.
Yes.
How do you believe your service has prepared you for serving in Congress?
I think it's very, very basic. The American people are looking for leadership. We've been absent of leadership for quite some time. And there are 5 basic points of leadership that the military teaches you. It's courage, it's competence, it's conviction to principles, it's commitment to those who you have been called to serve and to lead. But most important, it's about character. And I think that when you go back and you look at my military career, every one of those 5 points are displayed, and that's what I want to take to Washington, D.C.
There have been a rising number of U.S. casualties in Afghanistan. A Rasmussen poll earlier this month shows almost half of all American voters believe that situation will get worse there. Now, how do you feel about the Obama administration's strategy in Afghanistan, and do you still fully support the war there?
Well, I fully support us having victory there. There's no doubt about it. I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan as a civilian military advisor in Kandahar. There are a couple of things that have caused us to get off track. First of all, after 9 years, we're still fighting major combat operations. Something's wrong with that. And you have to look at the fact that we've gotten so focused on occupation warfare, on nation building. And those things drain your economic resources, and that takes soldiers away from their soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, away from their primary duty, which is to seek out this enemy and to destroy him. You know, we've got to get back to what I call strike operations, where you seek out the enemy. You deny him the sanctuaries that he's trying to establish. And you've got to take the fight to him by destroying him, destroying his capability, and pursuing him if need be. And you've got to cordon off these areas so that you don't have all of this external influence. And the biggest external influence there in Afghanistan comes right out of Pakistan. So we have to be very vigilant and show the resolve in taking the fight to this enemy. And I have to tell you, the number one thing that we've got to change is something that I'll be focused on as a congressman in Washington, D.C., or the rules of engagement. They're too restrictive, and they're giving the initiative to the enemy and not to our soldiers.
All right, another subject. Let's turn to the building of a mosque near Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
Now, over the weekend, President Obama said Muslims have a right to build it there. Is Obama right in your opinion?
Well, you know, the thing is, when he's talking about the freedom of religion, that is one of the rights that we have. And you look, that's what this country was founded upon. I mean, people fleeing religious persecution in Europe. But I think that what we have to understand, everyone keeps throwing out this word tolerance. If tolerance continues to be a one-way street, it's going to lead to cultural suicide. And it's so important that people recognize that's a sacred site. That is a very special site. And I equate that to if the Japanese nation ever wanted to construct a memorial to the naval aviators who attacked Pearl Harbor at Pearl Harbor or in and around near the U.S. Arizona, we'd be up in arms. You know, we have to stand upon our way of life and our culture, and other people need to respect that. We're not saying that you can't build mosques in the United States of America, although I do question a lot of the external influences that are building these structures here in our country. Because remember, just a week and a half ago, we found out that the number 2 in Al-Qaeda lived right here in South Florida, in Miramar, Florida. And we know that Muhammad Atta and about 5 or 6 of the 9/11 conspirators were right down here in South Florida and received their flight training. So it is not about their right to do so, but is it a prudent thing? It is a respectful thing to the families and to the people there of New York who still have some horrific memories. And the fact that they want to dedicate this on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, that's reprehensible.
Right. And the source of the funding's never been disclosed either.
The source of the funding is that's a huge consideration, and the fact of this imam, some of the incendiary comments that he has made. And so, you know, this is not a good thing. If you study the history of Islamic conquest against Western civilization, all you have to do is study about Cordoba, read about the Hagia Sophia, and what used to be Constantinople and now Istanbul.
Florida, the state you hope to represent in Congress, has just proposed a new immigration enforcement law that goes beyond Arizona, according to Attorney General Bill McCollum, who proposed it.
Yes.
Is Mr. McCollum right in proposing that law?
Well, the first thing you have to understand, the operative word is illegal. So it's not about being right. If you're seeking to do the things that protect the American citizens, and you have to understand the Constitution mandates that the federal government protects our borders and protects the American people, and the states have a right if the federal government are not doing that. I mean, Article 1, Section 10, Article 1 of the Constitution gives them the opportunity to do that. And then it's also the 10th Amendment, because those enumerated powers come back to the state and to the individual. So I do say, yes, we need to have a program here in Florida that does right by our people. You look at Congressional District 22 in the city of Jupiter, already a sanctuary city. Lake Worth, Florida is, you know, becoming a sanctuary city for illegal immigration. That's what we have to be focused on. The word is illegal immigration. It is not being anti-immigrant, because the United States of America has always opened its arms to immigration. But sign the guest book when you're coming in.
Why do you think the Obama administration went after Arizona and presumably will go after Florida once the law is enacted?
I think that once again it comes back to this divisive nature of trying to rally what they think is the Hispanic community to their side when it comes November. I think this partisan politics that they're playing has to go away, because you're putting our country in peril. It's a national security issue. It is an economic issue. It's an education, hospital, healthcare issue, and also it's a criminality issue. So I think that the Obama administration is trying to leverage the Hispanic community to come out and be voters for them, because they've been losing a lot of support out of the Hispanic community.
And finally, Colonel, House Minority Leader John Boehner has vowed to make repeal of Obamacare his top priority if the Republicans regain control of the House. If they do and you're a member of the House, would you support Representative Boehner?
Absolutely. I think that when you look at the will of the people, the American people did not want to have Obamacare. But one of the important things, we have to be careful with the verbiage we're using. Unless you can get that 2/3 majority in case of a presidential veto, it may be very difficult to repeal it. I think the first thing that we need to do is just look at how can we not fund it. 111 new government agencies, 11 new taxes. Those are the type of things that will drive a bad economic situation even worse, and that's what we have to stand up against. You know, I look at Obamacare, and I do agree that we need to cover people with pre-existing conditions. So I don't want to see us throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are very few things that are good about that law, but we have to do the right type of analysis and assessment.
Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you so much.
Thanks so much
for your service in the military, and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure being here.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.